convene the January 17, 2024 regular board meeting to order at 7 p.m. Jackie, please call the roll.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Here.
Emily Swistek.
Here.
Karen Larson.
Here.
Liz Sullivan.
Here.
Debbie Bryan, absent. Vanessa Berry.
Here.
Josh Martin, absent.
Thank you. Agenda item 2, opportunity for visitors to speak. Public comment is for the general public to address the board. Each person will have up to 5 minutes to provide public comment. Anyone wish to speak? Seeing none. Agenda item 3 acknowledges that Treasurer Larson and Trustee Martin reviewed the December billings in January, and that Vice President Swistek and Trustee Bryan will review the January billings in February. Agenda item 4, consent agenda. Is there a trustee who wishes to pull something from the consent agenda? If not, may I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda. I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye.
Emily Swistek.
Aye.
Vanessa Berry.
Aye.
Josh Martin. Oh, sorry. Karen Larson.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Thank you. Item 5, unfinished business. Excuse me. 5A1, capital improvement project, monthly project status update. Mark, would you please update the board?
Of course. So it's getting smaller and smaller of updates. I think this is the smallest one so far, but closeout progress, obviously with the holidays, there's not too much, but I know this past week or two, there's been some movement finally. Will just had the guys come in from Bradford for the tops that were put in. There's a few little touch-ups that they're also going to be looking at in the next couple of weeks, but Bradford's essentially substantially complete. Camosi was here, I want to say today, if not yesterday. Yesterday, I think, was dealing with the door problem. Some lighting issues that are warranty issues being dealt with. I don't know, Will, if you wanted to add anything else, what you'd seen of the past day or so in terms of efforts, but.
Yeah, we can discuss a little more in my assistant director's report, but what else went on in the last day? There was stuff with the lighting outside. There was stuff with Bradford, as Mark mentioned. Stuff with Camosi with the door, and speakers in here was another big one that happened yesterday as well.
So we've got those things going on right now, but the big news is that Camosi's current pay up that you guys are reviewing and approving hopefully today would leave about just under $10,000 worth of retainage on them, and it's for 2 items. We're basically closing it out with them except for 2 trades, one being landscaping, which we've got some plants that died and need to be replaced. I do believe that will end up being a credit back to the library to pay for them in the spring outside of Camosi's contract. I think it's just going to be easier, cleaner, get it done that way. And the other trade would be plumbing. Plumbing where they had the loose fixtures that we found.
Oh, yes.
And I think it's just we want to make sure that those are all properly fixed before it actually gets fully closed out with that. So I'm hoping there's one more pay up after this one. There might be a second to, we'll see how this goes, but we got about $10,000 left of retainage after A, the board approves that payment, again, hopefully tonight, and then B, once it gets processed, for final lien waivers, everything else. So if there's any concerns or questions or whatever else from staff or board, let me know, but we're getting that close to Camosi being closed out. Now they will still continue to support the project under warranty conditions. And think it's a 1-year warranty, which goes until, I want to say it's sometime in late March, early April. Yeah. So they would still continue to do that to the warranty issues.
Okay.
In terms of budget, there really was no update. You can start to see we are, again, slowly releasing some of the anticipated costs so that you actually see that our contingency line item went up just ever so slightly from last month because we're, again, not seeing costs come in that we projected before. We're coming in below those. So we're sitting at right now $122,000 to address any issues that you might want to address that weren't addressed as part of this project. One thing that is coming up, still embarrassingly, we have the projection screen that's not covered. I think Will saw the correspondence that I poked right around the new year to get some response. We've not gotten response. We've gotten told that the supplier might not be interested in it. So I've now got it on my docket, a list of 13 different firms to call tomorrow to just find someone else. And really it's not arbitrary. It's just carpenters that CCS has seen bid on other projects the past year.
Good.
So we're just going to.
One of them must want a small job.
I really hoped that this would work out well because the guy even came out. The guy that we're waiting for pricing, he even came out. He looked at it. He measured it. He spent some time here and nothing. But it's still now been 2 months, so I think it's time to start calling the list of 13 and see who wants to come out first. So that might have impact the 122, but that would be the only thing I see on the horizon impacting the 122 left.
That's small.
That's minuscule. So that'll give the board a sense of how much money is left. That would go back to whatever funds you would need to put it towards. Invoices, you can see there aren't too many. CCS was closing out last year's invoices. Chicago Title and Trust, this should be the last one from Chicago Title and Trust because it covers both the current pay up as well as one more pay up, assuming we have one more for Camosi. And then again, Chicago Title Trust, for those who don't know, those are the ones that are reviewing the lien waivers to make sure it's all in place. So that's why we have them there. No change orders.
Okay.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Wow. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We're getting there in dollars and cents.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Mark.
Of course. Happy New Year, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you. You too. Stay warm.
Yeah.
Agenda item 6, committee reports, 6A finance, any report?
No, not at this time.
Thank you. Personnel and policy.
We met last Wednesday, January 10th. We had a very productive, long meeting. And you will see the fruits of our labor later this evening.
Thank you.
Mhm.
6C, physical plant.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Agenda item 9, staff report, 7A, director's report.
Okay, thank you. My report, it mentions last Friday, the library closed due to emergency conditions due to weather. And my report outlines the procedures that we went through for closure. And as I mentioned, a lot goes on when there's an emergency closure. I contact the board, I contact the department directors, they contact their staff. We post announcements on social media. We call patrons who might have been registered for a program on that day, which we had 2. And our IT staff changed the voicemail so that when patrons call, they know we're closed. So staff did a really great job on that day, and we opened as usual on Saturday. Moving on to the behemoth project we are going to talk about later, the employee handbook. We'll go over the draft later, but I just want to mention that it's been a while since this has been updated. And since then, there's been new legislation, there have been new procedures. We also removed outdated immaterial information. And just so everybody knows, so when new employees are hired, they are asked to read and sign off on the handbook. The handbook gives department directors a lot of guidance. It gives our staff information about their benefits. It lays out general procedures and protocols on a variety of employment topics. And then updating the handbook required some researching on the state and local statutes and federal statutes, speaking with our vendor HR source on HR related topics, looking at other public library employee handbooks, and of course discussing them with the department directors. So as Vice President Swistak mentioned, we had a very productive meeting, and the committee provided additional edits to the draft that was presented to them. So I thank them very much for their input. And as per usual, you saw that in the packet, there's a strikeout version as well as a clean version, and we will get to that when we get to the next agenda item. Moving on, at the end of the packet, there is a brochure called the Annual Report, very, very nicely put together by our marketing and graphic specialist. It's got trustee photos, a director summary, financial figures, statistics, outreach data, and there's a section about one of the biggest accomplishments in fiscal year 22-23, our renovation. So there's a lot of nice pictures in there. And this brochure can be found at the circulation desk as well as on our website currently. And then just lastly, I'll mention that Illinois Representative Tara Costa Howard will be at the library on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, January 23rd from 1 to 3 p.m. And I'm just hoping the weather is good. She'll be back to the library to meet with constituents. She'll be meeting in our main lobby in the Maple study room, and her office is asking that if constituents would like to meet with her, to call the office or email the office, and all the information is on the socials we have in our library social media, and then she's got it on her social media. That's my report.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. 7B, Assistant Director's Report. Will.
Thank you. So we'll look at my report, starting with our meetings. We've had several different meetings with our training rep from Library Market with regards to the new room reservation system and the new calendar system that's going to be up and running shortly. We have completed all of our initial onboarding meetings with her and are now moving on to training for the admin group as well as the rest of staff. So the admin group is a group of, I think we up to 9 staff members who we've identified as those who should have full access about changing any information as part of the reservation system or calendar system. And then the rest of staff will all be trained on how to put in programs or the other back-end things that might need to be done on a daily basis. The event team met on January 11th to discuss options for a spring library-wide event. We are looking at an event that will focus on National Library Week in April. So no specifics have been determined yet, but we're chipping away. And then I've set up meetings with a few additional building automated systems companies to come out. I've got one actually tomorrow morning that I'm looking forward to. So
For HVAC.
for HVAC stuff. So hopefully by the end of the month, I have a clearer picture of a timeline of what needs to be done and what would be the best course of action for taking care of what we have currently. Then the facility. So All American Sign Company was in to change the signage on the outside of the public restrooms, as you may have noticed. They are also working on getting us changes for the signs on the inside too. So hopefully these will be a little clearer on the lock and unlock with the green and red lights on the outside and the inside as well. And then Milan came in to complete repairs on the 2 public service desks. So the lower level adult services and the youth services desk, some of the seams were splitting. The caulk was coming apart, and so we had them come out and patch everything up, and it is all shipshape. So we are all done with them, which I'm very happy about. And then actually much happened since I submitted my report and the packet was finished on Saturday. So Sunday, Sandy came in to work on some IT stuff and our boiler was in alarm. So I called Sandra to come out and work on that. That was a multiple day issue. So thankfully we are all good now. It turned out there was a sensor that wasn't supposed to be wired into the BAS, that was supposed to be local control only, that had originally been wired in. Long story short, it was tripping safety that it should not have been tripping, and we got everything sorted out there. We also had the speaker guys come in to add our new speakers in both meeting rooms so that the audio levels are appropriate for running programs. B is crystal clear and excellent. A still needs to be worked on, as we found out that A runs its audio through the original amp that we had before the renovation, and it cannot match the capacity of the speakers. So the speakers can get as loud as we need them to, but the distortion at higher levels makes the audio garbled and not acceptable. So we're looking into what a solution for that is. We also had an electrician out to come look at some lighting for the upper level, and then we had our south parking lot lights have issues. So I'm having they're thinking it's a short somewhere in the system. They're coming back out tomorrow morning to hopefully assess and remedy that situation. So fingers crossed by tomorrow, parking lot lights are back up and running. As Mark mentioned, Bradford came in. We got the final shelf top in adult services, the magazine top that had been mismeasured 3 times is finally correct, as well as a few other small spots that had been overlooked in the production process that we're getting them to try to assess and to remedy for us. And that was all that happened since I wrote this report.
I think all of admin worked on Saturday and Sunday this weekend.
Yes.
Any questions for Wayne? On the HVAC system software, is that all one system? Are we all on one, like, I think the air handlers, weren't they split, or the boilers,
No, the split was we had 2 vendors we were working with. So the people who would come in to work on the air handlers and the actual physical equipment was one company. The software company was a different company.
Is that still the case that there's two different companies?
It is, yeah.
I knew there was something, two different.
Yes.
Mhm.
Thank you, Will.
Mhm.
Item 8 is new business.
May, excuse me, could I ask a question about adult services?
I can help I can answer it. Yes.
I know for English as a second language, we used to have a room dedicated to that. Do we have a room or do we use one of the study rooms
We
now?
have even a better room that we used to have. We have a literacy room upstairs.
Okay,
And we have the collections upstairs and it's strictly for literacy or tutoring.
okay, I just haven't sought that room out, so I guess I better.
Go upstairs and then go straight and then turn right, like go towards the desk and then turn
It's
right.
right next to the reference desk
Mhm.
upstairs.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anyone else? 8A is new business.
Sorry.
That's a good question, Liz.
Is the appoint committee to prepare the fiscal 2024-25 working budget. As board president, I appoint a committee of the whole to prepare the library's 2024-2025 fiscal year budget. I know the staff preparing their budget requests and seeking quotes this month and next. The board will probably see a draft in March, and we generally pass the budget in May, right?
Correct.
Any questions on that? 8B, approve resolution 24-01, adoption of the ALA Bill of Rights pursuant to Public Act 103-100. May I have a motion and a second, and then the director can provide an explanation.
I move to adopt resolution 24-01, the American Library Association Library Bill of Rights pursuant to Illinois Public Act 103-100 under 75 ILCS 10/1.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay, so Governor Pritzker signed this act into law to ensure that public libraries continue to provide materials without limitation and to protect against banning materials. And in order for the library to be eligible for state grants, libraries are to adopt ALA's Library Bill of Rights. And the Bill of Rights indicates that a library shall not remove materials based on partisan or dogma or doctrinal disapproval. So just to be clear, our library already references the Library Bill of Rights in our complete policy manual. We also reference the freedom to read and the freedom to view. But this resolution just confirms the library's commitment to the Bill of Rights and just does it in a more formal fashion.
All right. Call the roll, please.
Marjorie Bartelli,
Aye.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Vanessa Berry,
Aye.
Josh Martin,
Aye.
Emily Swister,
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Thank you. 8C is to approve the per capita grant application. May I have a motion in a second? And then director give us an explanation.
I move to approve the 2024 Illinois Public Library per capita and equalization aid grant application.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay, and so speaking of grants, and why we approved that resolution just a minute ago, the annual per capita grant application is how we show the state that we comply with the standards in the ILA standards handbook. Again, this application isn't supposed to be comprehensive, it's more of a summary of how we comply with all those standards, or if you're on your way to meeting those standards.
Any questions? Jackie, call the roll.
Marjorie Bartelli,
Aye.
Emily Swister,
Aye.
Vanessa Berry,
Aye.
Josh Martin,
Aye.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Karen Larson.
Aye.
Thank you. Item 8D, approve LLD policy 850, LLD employee handbook.
I move to approve revisions to LLD policy 850, the employee handbook.
I'll second.
Okay, so as mentioned, a lot of the heavy lifting was done by the Personnel and Policy Committee. I'm only gonna highlight some of the significant changes, and if there are questions afterwards, I or any committee member can address them. So I'm just gonna run through it, I'm not gonna go page by page. So first and foremost, in general, a lot of grammatical and punctuation changes were made throughout the entire document. The same with format changes, so I'm not gonna go over those individual changes. If you see changes you don't like, you can bring them up and we'll make those changes. So moving on to the meat and potatoes. We tightened up the introduction, we included information about the district, we included better information about trustees and the director roles. We then described job classifications per the Fair Labor and Standards Act. Then we retooled the hiring procedures, records, and evaluation section to better describe what happens when one is hired, where records are kept, what records are kept. This section describes the purpose and outlines procedures for employee evaluations. Next, there's a whole section about staff input that includes segments about the all-staff meetings, the department director meetings, ad hoc meetings, as well as in-service meetings. And we never detailed out these expectations before in the employee handbook, so it's good for staff to see that we do value their input as well as lay out the expectations for participation. And then we move on to the employee conduct section. We added vaping to the no smoking part. We updated the dress code portion. We added a new part about employee speech, and then another whole new section about anti-bullying. Then the next section just better describes guidelines for use of library technologies such as email. We added the multi-factor authentication, which was new for us this last year, and so on. The next section describes disciplinary grievance and separation from employment procedures. There's added language there on the list of offenses. There's an outline of disciplinary procedure. There's information on how to file a grievance, and that information gratefully comes from the bylaws, so we didn't have to rework the language there. Next, and there's also better language about retirements and resignations. The next big section outlines the conditions of work, such as when the library closes for an emergency, pay periods, salary increases, when they go into effect, hours of work, descriptions of exempt and non-exempt positions, description of breaks and time off requests, military leave, and then two acts that are important, the VESA Act, the Victims Economic Security and Safety Act, and then FMLA, as we know, is the Family Medical Leave Act, and then a general unpaid leave section. In the same category, under working conditions, we updated the bloodborne pathogen portion to include hazardous materials and references to PPE availability. Under staff development, we better delineated what staff orientation involves. We clarified tuition reimbursement. We reworded the professional affiliations and employee recognition section. And then the next large section is benefits. We talk about vacation leave, sick leave, and jury duty. The new section after sick leave is the Paid Leave for All Workers Act, or PLAWA. This is a new law that just went into effect on January 1st that permits staff who work less than 20 hours a week, they are able to gain paid leave. So having that in our handbook was important. And then there's other clarifications in the section about holidays, bereavement leave, jury duty, EAP, which is the employee assistance program that we have. We've had it for years, we've just never had it in the employee handbook, which is important to have. And there are also updates about insurance information, IMRF, staffing privileges, reimbursed expense information, vehicle use, and then lastly, a memorial acknowledgement section. That is my very, in a nutshell, review. I'm grateful to the Personnel Policy Committee for their input, additional edits. I think we have a much cleaner, updated, and more understandable employee handbook. It's going to be very beneficial for all the department directors. Any questions?
I just had a couple of, there are still some formatting issues in.
Did I not get them all?
No,
Okay.
and you know how I am.
Yes, I
On page 126, under the Roman numeral 6 at the top, the paragraph's not justified in, but like the other ones on page 125 are. So if you look at one under C, so do you see how they're like justified in?
Yes.
And then, so the aunt, uncle, that one's not far enough over, and then the other ones below it aren't.
I see.
Okay, and then if you go to page 129, under examples of unacceptable attire include but are not limited to, some of those have no period and some have a period, so I don't know, I just would like it to be uniform, I don't care if there is or there isn't, but F, I, and J
I
all
see.
had periods, but the other ones don't. So whatever you wanna do there. I just would like it to be uniform. And then on 133, at the bottom, 2C, I, one, whatever that is, that there's no space between the I and supervisor.
Okay.
You see that? And then on the next page, 134, 3A, the strikeout's still there, his/her strikeout for there, so that's still there. 137, under 9A, there's an extra spacing with for and this leave under eligibility. Do you see it?
Yes, I do.
And then in C, same thing with the justification under the small Roman numerals, they're not in. So under C and under D, going on to the next page,
Yes.
they're all not justified in. And then at the bottom of the page, 10A4, that one's not in line with the ones above it. And then on page 139, near the top under B, intermittent conditions, that's not justified over. And then same with D, certification for leave, that one's not justified over.
You can tell by the end of this, I was.
And then D2, so below where you are, information is too far over, so it needs to be brought back. And then on the next page, 140, the next one needs to be brought back over. And then E, it needs to be justified underneath record keeping, so the description, because all the rest, and then same under F and same under G. Because on all the other pages, that is justified like that. And then on the next page, same thing. So it's still just justifying them over to be underneath that. And then on page 142, same thing at the bottom of the page, 13, under staff development A, orientation, that's not justified over. And then on page 144, there's another strikeout that's still there. It's the third paragraph down, the last sentence. Library is a strikeout, it's to be changed to LLD, and the library strikeout's still there.
Where is it?
Third paragraph down on page 144,
Oh,
the
I
last
see it.
sentence.
Yes.
And that might have been it. I don't see any more of my blue markers. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Did you see other stuff, Vanessa, that I missed?
On page 150, there's a couple strikeouts in that last
Did I miss some
paragraph.
more? I think my eyes started glossing over too.
Yes, easy to.
And another
Oh,
one
there it is, yeah, at the
on-
bottom, the R,
Yeah, and
Oh, there it
page 150 R, yeah.
R and A, a few words back.
is. Yes.
Oh, yep. Oh, see, I glossed over those ones. Thanks, Vanessa.
And then on 152, there's an A that's striked out and the second paragraph in N. Personal use at a Lisle LLD's discount.
What?
Where?
Under
and
staff
paragraph
privileges.
two.
Oh, I see it.
Oh, N. Yes.
I think that was it, except kind of related. There was one of something referred to looking at the organizational chart on the website. So I was like, oh, I'll go check that out. And there were a couple misspellings in that.
On that organizational chart?
Mhm.
Make a note.
Thanks, Vanessa.
I was channeling my inner Emily.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did this a little bit backwards. I started editing the first half before realizing that there was a clean copy. So my edits are in the pages before there's a clean copy. So like mine start at page 63 and about halfway down C1, CI,
C.
the word at that's in green, I don't think it needs to be there. It is expected that at candidates
Yeah, that might be corrected.
I think that may have been to like get rid of it. I think that's what that
Yeah,
was.
that's just highlighted
Oh,
that the
that-
committee found that.
Oh, I
And
thought
we
the
were
committee was adding that.
getting it
Okay,
out.
never mind.
I don't
there's
think that's in there.
Should be a strikeout.
Yeah. In that green. I can't even read that.
Well, how about if I compare my edits to the final copy, and if I find that they're not in the final, because a lot of mine are periods and ands and all that stuff, that might already be corrected in the final copy. So, if they're not, how about if I just drop them?
Oh, no,
back?
you know what? That at is still there on page
Is it?
125, yeah. Page 125, C1. It does say, it is expected that at candidates, it should just be candidates.
Yeah, it should be, okay.
The at's supposed to be gone, so that was supposed to be a strikeout. Thanks, Liz.
Sure.
Any other edits?
Well, unfortunately, it'll take me a while to compare them to like the final one. Because I'm looking at like page 67, which I'm trying to convert it to a page in the final one. Because if I look at the strikeout, it's the strikeout at the very last word on page 67. It took out members and the period following members. So if I'm understanding track changes, it needs to add a period after the word staff.
Yes.
Okay, so that was already corrected.
Let's
There
see.
should
Yeah, it's there.
Okay, see, that's why I think it'd be more productive for me to go through mine, because I marked them in the first half.
But content wise, outside of like punctuation and stuff,
Content was beautiful.
Okay. That wasn't a question, I had more of a general comment that it seems that the entire policy was more or less struck and rewritten, which is
Yeah.
not a bad thing.
Uh-huh.
Considering that most of the previous policy was just narrative paragraphs, and now I see many more bulleted and enumerated lists, which is always helpful
easier.
for following the policy.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think in general, perhaps highlighting of all the bulleted lists and adjusting the tab stops and a quick find and replace for strike throughs will solve many of those grammatical errors. I don't believe we have any content that really needs to be updated.
That's good. I'm glad to hear it.
It was interesting, I didn't realize there was a new law about part-timers getting
Paid leave.
paid leave. That was pretty interesting. That was pretty cool.
Anyone else? Great. Jackie, we call the roll.
Marjorie Bartelli,
Aye.
Emily Swissack,
Aye.
Vanessa Berry,
Aye.
Josh Martin,
Aye.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Karen Larson.
Aye.
Motion passed, great job.
Lot of work.
Item 9 is the opportunity for trustee comments. We will start with Vice President Swissack.
Okay. I would just like to echo what I said at last Wednesday's meeting, which was thanking the director for all the work that was put into working on the revisions to the employee handbook policy 850. I know it took a long time, and I really appreciate all that, and the committee did a great job working through it. So thank you, and I was glad that we were able to put the fruits of the labor tonight and that everyone approved it. So thank you for that. And then also just for making the decision on Friday to close the library, keep the staff safe, and all of that when we were all kind of hunkering down with the snow. So that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you. Secretary Sullivan.
I just want to thank both Stephanie and Terry for all their help scheduling meetings. I know I've had a lot of meetings I've needed to schedule, and I've had some changes and specificity when it comes to how we want the room arranged. So they've been both very helpful. I don't know if they're working in the new system yet.
Not yet.
Okay, but they've been very helpful. So thank you.
Nice.
Thank you. Trustee Martin.
I have no additional comments. Thank you. I'll keep it to the point.
That's allowed. Treasurer Larson?
I'm following Josh, nothing at this time.
Trustee Barry?
Yeah, me too.
Thank you. I just want to say thanks to the Tatiana staff and Chairman Swistak for the handbook, a paid rewrite practically. All of your efforts made the committee meeting very efficient and smooth. Otherwise, we would still be. And I'd also like to say thanks to the department directors for the quarterly reports. I really enjoy reading those. I don't get here as often as some of you with small children, so on and so forth.
Gives you a glimpse.
Yeah, it makes me tired just reading. It's a great snapshot of the programs and activities, so please tell them I say thank you.
Will do.
Okay, that's it. And the last item on the agenda,
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:36 p.m.